Have you found that the conversations at work or in your business have been kind of dragged down by all of the worries and the fears going on around coronavirus right now? Well, you're not alone, and I have some tips that can help. Hello and welcome to Communication Q&A. My name is Lauren Sergi, and if you've seen my other videos, you will recognize that we are not in my usual filming studio right now because I recently received a couple of questions regarding communication during all of the coronavirus panic and fears that's going on right now. And I wanted to respond to those right away while it's still pertinent and still top of everyone's mind. This first question is coming at us from Robert, who asks, "Hi Lauren, as the coronavirus progresses, my employees as well as our clients are becoming increasingly anxious. I understand why they feel this way, but it seems like coronavirus fears are creeping into every conversation, even though everything here is still business as usual. Every discussion, even if it has nothing to do with COVID-19, seems more tense. How can I encourage a better mood in the office? How can I help people stop dwelling on everything that's going on and get more positive conversations going? Thanks, Robert." Robert, this is a great question, and I'm very glad to hear that you're wanting to find ways to elevate the conversation in your office with your employees, with your clients or stakeholders, because it is true that when we have big global frightening events like this going on, that every single conversation appears to be affected by them. So to help you and to help everyone who is watching this episode here create a better communication environment in your office or in your work, to help you keep things a little more upbeat, a little bit more positive and focused with your employees as well as your clients, I have 3 tips to help you move conversations forward so that we don't spend too much time dwelling on the negative. Recognize that bad news, such as the coronavirus pandemic, will affect the way people hear, interpret, and respond to information in many different ways. Bad news in one area or concerns and worries in one region of life will bleed into communication and behaviors in other areas of life. Really, we need to look no further than all of the turmoil in the stock market or the crazy hoarding behavior that's been going on, such as people stockpiling toilet paper, to understand that one piece of information can affect the way that we interpret information about other pieces of info as well. This is about how one piece of news can affect our worldview, can affect how we see and interpret information that has to do with many different areas of our life. When you find a lot of uncertainty in one area of life, what tends to happen is that people start to become very risk averse in their behavior, but also risk averse in their communication. This shows up as what you described in your question to me, people becoming tense and anxious in discussions and conversations that have absolutely nothing to do with the news of the day, and in this case, that's COVID-19. This follows a really fundamental aspect of human behavior, which is that if we're feeling uncertain in one area, we become more conservative and seek out more security in other areas of life as well. This shows up in conversations in terms of what sort of language we use. So we'll stop using really positive or forward-thinking or even risky type of language, like "I want to take on a new activity, we should try to innovate in this certain area." And we'll start to use much more conservative security and certainty focused language. Do we know how that is going to work? What effect is this going to have? How can we make sure that we're okay during this time? I don't want to be too risky right now. Those are 2 very different frames of mind. When we're feeling a certain way, we tend to indicate those feelings through our language choices. This is something that as a communicator, you should recognize, respect, and kind of follow along with during this period. So if you're talking to a client about a new product or a new service that you have that you want them to be considering, right now, and now being March 9th, 2020, just for record's sake, right now I would recommend avoiding risk or uncertainty type language. Avoid talking about things that seem really novel or things that seem really new and are untried and untested as of yet. So you wouldn't want to talk about this great new widget that you have coming out, that it's the leading edge of technology in its area. Instead, you would want to say things like, this widget that we're recommending to you has been through a lot of really rigorous testing. We made sure that it's going to function in a wide variety of circumstances, and here is all of the backup that we have in place to make sure that we can handle anything that might go wrong. The first example I gave, which was all about new, innovative technology, things that are fresh to the market, right on the cutting edge, that's a lot of risky type language. It requires people to take a leap of faith. And when times are good, they might be very, very eager to do that. But times ain't so good right now. So instead we shift to the more conservative language of, we've tested this out, we have backups and fail-safes if it doesn't work, it is tried and true, and we've got your back. That would be a much more context-sensitive sort of language to go with and would probably sound a lot better to your clients than the risk-heavy language we were discussing earlier. Number 2, don't deny, but don't catastrophize. At this point in time, coronavirus is pretty much everywhere. We're not going to avoid its effects at all, but we're also not wanting to blow things out of proportion. So we need to strike a balance between burying our heads in the sand, which is no good, isn't helpful, and actually will just make people even more anxious, and going completely off the deep end, such as that US senator who showed up with a gas mask on. That is catastrophe communication. What you're aiming for in your conversations, whether it's conversations about coronavirus or conversations about other areas of work that people are just seeming to catastrophize a little bit more right now, you want to strike the middle road. Think of what could likely happen, what is reasonable to expect, and bring it up, acknowledge it, discuss what your plans are around it. But you want to avoid going with catastrophe-style language. Catastrophe-type language are things like, we don't know what's going to happen, or everyone is freaking out, or this is going to completely change the way that we do business from here on out. There's a lot of that sort of language going around right now, and all that it really does is stoke fears and stoke feelings of helplessness, so we want to avoid that. I also recommend against catastrophizing behaviors. I mentioned that earlier example of that senator who showed up wearing a gas mask. That is catastrophe behavior. Gwyneth Paltrow's social media posts talking about her amazing charcoal mask that's going to keep her safe and healthy. That is irresponsible catastrophe communication. You definitely don't want to bring that kind of communication into your workplace. So don't go jumping out of your skin every time someone coughs or sneezes. Should you mention things that are going to be going on that employees need to be aware of? Absolutely. Encourage good hand hygiene, but maybe don't go around throwing bottles of Purell at absolutely everyone you see and obsessing about washing hands immediately upon entering the office and sanitizing everything as soon as you touch it. Model the behavior that you want, but avoid sounding overly panicky when you're discussing it. That is easier said than done in the current environment, but it is still very, very doable. Tip number 3 is to focus conversations, whether they're about COVID-19 or not, on what you could do in a situation instead of on what could happen. There is a very fine difference between talking about what we could do in a reasonable tone in a given situation versus just talking about what could happen, basically speculating on all the different scenarios that might occur if something like a coronavirus spreads through your office or starts affecting your business or what have you. What you want to do here is keep people focused on all of the proactive things they could do to carry on with business, to make sure that work is still going the way it needs to go to keep themselves healthy in the event of something happening. This is about focusing on proactive language. So let's say that someone in your office gets sick. Instead of saying, we could all get sick, it might rip through this office completely, everyone could end up staying home, and being quarantined for days and weeks on end, focus instead on saying proactive things like, if you do come down with symptoms, make sure that you stay home for the amount of time you need to stay home. Now, what could we do to make sure that while you are stuck at home, we can continue communicating, that we can continue getting our work done? Maybe we could look at telecommuting during this period. Maybe we could check in through more video conference meetings or even just checking in over the phone. One is what you could do, the other is what could happen. The one gives people much more agency and much more of a positive feeling of control in their everyday life than the other. Keep conversations moving towards the positive things of what you could do to improve or to handle a situation instead of how out of control a situation can possibly get. So there you go, Robert. 3 tips on how you can elevate the conversation and hopefully the mood as well in your office. Help people stay a little calmer amidst all of these fears, amidst the 24-hour news cycle that's kind of makes it feel like the world is coming to an end right now, and hopefully help everyone that you are working with, that you're dealing with, carry on business as usual with more of a feeling of safety, security, and control. Now, I would like to throw a question to everyone watching out there. How is the mood in your business or in your place of work right now? Are things generally upbeat? Are things business as usual? Or have you been impacted by COVID-19 and by the current coronavirus outbreak in a way that has necessitated you to really wrangle with the way people are communicating at work at the moment? I would love to hear your stories. Please share them in the comments down below. I hope you all stay healthy, and I hope you all keep communicating in a way that's positive, that's realistic but not catastrophic, and in a way that helps you stay connected to those around you. Thank you so much for joining me on Communication Q&A. Stay healthy and keep on talking.